welcome to my channel. This is Leslie. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to be working with this sheet of paper. It is from Echo Park. It's called Birthday Wishes, and I paired it with the She's Magic collection from Dear Lizzy. The rainbow theme worked very well for me. So I cut a piece of white, textured white cardstock to 8.5 by 8.5 inches. And I'm just taking my T-ruler there to make sure that it's the same distance all the way through and that it is totally center, and there you go. And I didn't gut the back piece or the piece of paper that I mounted the white piece of paper on because I didn't think I needed to. So I am going to be using some pink thread. As you can see that I'm almost run out of my white thread. I'm going to be using pink thread to do some stitching on this white piece of paper. Now I only put glue on the inside of the white piece of paper, not on the corners and the edges of the white piece of paper, because I knew I would do some stitching and I didn't want the glue to sort of mess up and muck up my needle and the inside of my machine. Now this machine is an old machine. It's not terribly old, but it's old. It's sort of, everything rattles when I use it, and the other day I was using it and it rattled so much the light bulb fell out. So yeah, it's on its last legs, but it's still working fine. I have been using my Happy Stitch a little more lately. I've been trying to figure out how to use it because I have the Happy Stitch and I'm not using it, and I've paid so much money for it and importing it into Dubai and all of that. So I'm figuring out how to use it, but for this layout I'm just using my Singer. Now I'm using two types of different stitches on this layout, just a normal straight stitch and then a zigzag in the corners, just to do some accenting and to add some interest to the stitching, to, yeah, just not to have it all straight stitch. Now if I do straight stitching, I usually do it like a couple of times, or like 3 or 4 or 5 times, so that it looks very messy and very textured, so that there's lots of layers and layers of stitching. But for this I just did one layer of stitching and then some zigzag, and then I did some more straight stitching over the zigzag, so that there's a bit more dimension or interest. And I do rough up or tuft up or make a little nest of the little bit of thread on the edge, and then I stitch that little nest, and then you can see the little nest. I stitch it to the paper so that it won't fluff all over the place, and there you can see my little nest at the bottom left hand corner of the paper. There you can see all my stitching, and it's not straight, it is terribly skew and it's all over the place, but it is lovely and I really like it. I really like the interest that stitching gives, and especially when you add little thread nests to your layout or to the bottom of embellishments and things like that. So this is one of the cut aparts from the 12 by 12 paper pad from She's Magic, and I'm going to be using this photo of Lucy. This was on her birthday party and she was just walking on the grass, and then the nanny actually took a photo of her while she was walking with a balloon, and then sent me this photo on WhatsApp, and it's too cute. So I decided to do some more stitching on this photo, and I'm going to be zigzag stitching the photo to that little cut apart that I've got there, and the photo actually fits perfectly onto the cut apart. It's exactly the same shape, it's just a bit smaller, so it works perfectly with that. And you'll see that I do have some issues with the machine. It does get stuck sometimes, and you can see I'm just trying to get the paper working. And that is Lucy's little hand. She was sitting on my lap while I was doing this layout, and you're going to see lots of her little fingers in this shot in a little bit. But she was very interested in the sewing machine and how it worked and everything. And there she's grabbing hold of my scissors. Don't worry, I'm going to be taking my scissors away from her shortly. And here you can see lots of thread hanging off that little piece that I did, and I love it. I love it. I know Missy Whidden uses a lot of thread nesting and threads underneath and inside all of her embellishments and things, so that really works for me. So these little flowers. I fussy cut them from one of the 12 by 12 papers from the collection, and I'm just going to be using them to sort of frame the photo. I'm going to be putting some on top of the photo, on top of the little photo frame, and then some just underneath it, so that it looks like the flowers are peeping out from behind the photo. And I did buy extra sheets of this pattern paper with the flowers on, and as you can see on the left hand side of the screen, I've got a lot of that. So I decided to put those little white daisies on top of the thread nest, so that the threads sort of peep out from behind the daisy, and so that the daisy looks like it's sitting on top of the nest. It's got its own little seat there of thread. And yeah, I really like the way that this layout came out. I love the fact that this piece of paper at the back that I framed the layout with from Echo Park really works well, and it's the same sort of colors. I know the green is a bit different, but the rest is pretty much the same, and I really love the fact that there's also orange in that paper, and there's lots of orange in this Dear Lizzy collection as well. You can see my little Lucy's hands. Look at her chubby fingers. She's got such chubby fingers. I love it. So she's very interested in what I do. She keeps on coming and coming to see what I do, and she wants to sit on my lap when I do this. So it is tricky, but I do get through it. And how can you not have such a little squishy? How can you not want that squishy to sit on your lap? She's so cute to cuddle. Sorry, I'll stop faffing over her in a bit. As you can see, there's still lots of thread hanging loose on the bottom part of my layout, and I will tuck all that thread in behind one of the florals in a bit. And I'm using these little tabs, or these little tickets, these little ticket stubs, just tucking them in behind the white piece of paper of the layout, and they're just some extra interest, just to add some extra interest to that part of the layout. I'm going through all the embellishments, all the ephemera, trying to find something else that I want to put in there. And yeah, I'm not going to put in anything else in there. I think the flowers and the stripes at the background, and also those little tags that I got there on this, or the little tickets in any case that I put there, is enough. And you can see Lucy's little hand is still there. She's still sitting there on my lap. I think she's gonna go now. And there I can work nicely now without her on my lap, and I just make that little thread nest under that fussy cut flower a little bit neater, so that the flower sits nicely on top of that. I am going to go ahead and stick everything down now, and I'm just going to be using my wet glue. There's nothing special about it. It's Aleene's quick tacky glue, I think, quick dry tacky glue. And as you can see here, I'm using some more thread. I felt that the thread needed to be placed on top of the photo as well, so that it balances out the thread at the bottom left hand corner, also behind the fussy cut flowers. And now there's a nice little balance, and it's nicely coordinated there. I was thinking of putting a title at the bottom of the photo, and there's this nice open space there, and I am just in my head thinking of what I have in my stash to put there. As you can see, I'm going ahead now with the gluing, just to glue that thread down as well. I'm using quite a lot of glue behind that one fussy cut flower on top of the thread, just to keep all the threads together. And yeah, they do get a bit finicky sometimes, the threads. They do catch on everything, catch on your sleeve, catch on your nails, and and so on, but it is worth your while to use the thread on the layout. As you can see there, I was just putting some glue behind my photo as well, and then sticking it down, fixing that thread there behind that little flower that I'm going to be gluing there down now, and the thread gives nice dimension to the flower as well. It's almost like the flower is sitting on top of the thread, and it's giving a nice sort of dimension. I'm going to be sticking down those little tags or little tickets that I've got tucked in behind that white piece of paper. And this is from Cocoa Vanilla, and it's from the Happiness collection. These are the titles or the sentence words, the sentences. You can build sort of sentences and titles with this. And I've got 2 packets of these, and this is the first time I'm using them. I'm actually happy that I'm going to be using it. And I'm going to use Lovely You, and it was so cute how she was walking down the walking on the grass, and she was being so lovely, you know, Lovely You. So I thought that that would be the best title. I'm going to be using my T-square ruler just to line everything up to make sure that the title is nice and straight, because the stitching underneath it is very skew, so I didn't want to go by the stitching. I was thinking to use the T-square just to make sure that everything is nice and straight, so that it's pleasing to the eye, and it doesn't you know, it's not too unruly. So I'm going to be using my Sharpie just to to draw some edges on the photo to frame the photo. I do this a lot. I love the effect that this gives. It sort of your eye, it makes the photo stand out a bit more. I'm also going to be doodling around the edges of the layout. I felt that because this layout is such a square characteristic to it, the layout itself is square, the white piece of paper on the layout is square, it's very angular, everything. So I thought that that would be good to have everything nice and framed. There's a lot of framing, the photo is framed and all of that as well. So I'm going to be using some black Heidi Swapp Color Shine just to sprinkle about, very, very lightly sprinkling that about everywhere. And these little stars I got from a shop here called Daiso, and it's like $1 shop. It's a Japanese shop. They've got very cheap things, and these are very cute stars. So I'm going to be using the colors that coordinate with the layout, and that is it for this layout. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing and join the community, and I will see you again soon. Bye.